My slide is open anyway, so I don't know why.
Yes, we can see that.
You can see my slide.
Yes,
can
yes,
you?
we can. Yes, we can.
Oh well, that's thank you. That's then I can carry on then anyway. Okay, you can see me. You can see my slides. Okay.
Yes.
So that's good. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سن بسنته يوم الدين قال ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you for inviting me to this symposium webinar and on the recent challenge of youth a way forward. Inshallah, today I'm going to focus on contemporary problem of Muslim youth, challenges and solutions from Islamic perspective. I'm going to focus on the Pakistani youth rather than on a global youth anyway. So let's go straight into it. And so what I'm trying to do is just a quick overview of some of the issues affecting Muslims. In other words, that basically we live in a globalized Western, society, and we have that globalized Western values and culture that's rapidly eroding, our traditional ideas about society, about culture, about family, and is also, in fact, sometimes the states anyway. At the same time, we have, sort of materialism, which is creating a culture of, spiritual emptiness in a way. People are devoid of that spiritual dimension, and also that lead to demoralization, pessimism, and people feel alienated. In fact, youth today tend to feel alienated because they face competing ideologies. They have Western culture which have been bombarded, Western values. At the same time, if they're Muslim, so there's a conflict between the personal and also, and the stuff, the socialization as well. To start with, I think what I'd like to do, like I said, I'm going to focus on the youth. And so far, I think looking at this particular hadith, and this is from Ibn Abbas, reported that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that we need to take advantage of youth, and he said that's why it's called take advantage of youth before five before five. It's a authentic hadith, and it's according to Sheikh Albani. First of all, we take advantage of youth before old age. We take advantage of our health before sickness. We take advantage of our wealth before poverty, free time before preoccupation, and also life in general before death. Now, what's the lesson from there? What can we take away from this particular hadith? Is that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam remind us of the importance of being thankful, for our blessing, and make the most of our time. We've given a lot of time, and so we are constantly reminded throughout the Quran and also the Sunnah that time is passing and faster than we realize. So we must make basically wise decisions. That's why I think the most important thing is for youth is to take advantage of youth before we reach old age. I think you need to reflect on this anyway. The next slides, I think it's worthwhile.
So we cannot hear you. I guess he's stuck.
I think so. There's some internet connectivity issue.
I think he will reconnect.
This is also one of the issues that our youth is facing these days.
Right.
You've been Assalamu alaikum. I don't know whether you've been hearing from me or you just been cut off. What's been happening?
So you were cut off. We could not hear you.
Oh
Yeah.
God. So I have to start again
From the third slide, sir.
from the first slide. All right.
Third slide.
Can you see my slides now?
No, not yet.
Okay, let me see. I don't, oh no. This is a technical problem, you see. No, I don't think this is the one anyway. I don't think this is the one. Why it's not? Why it's not?
No, it's not that. It's different. So your mic is mute.
What I'm saying to you, do I carry on because I'm having problem with my slides. I can't seem to be able to do it. I can't. I don't know why it's not. I may try again for the last time, and then otherwise I can do it without slides. Can you see the slides now? Can you see the slides?
Not yet, sir.
No, so it's not working. I don't know why. Anyway, and I can't share content. I cannot find the content. And anyway, let me talk. Anyway, let me talk about the slides. Anyway, so it's just you can see me. Anyways, let me talk about the slides. I was talking about the third slide, which is about how the Quaid Azam, and Muhammad Iqbal Ali Jinnah talk about how Pakistan is proud of its youth, particularly student, and they've been the forefront of more or less being transformational agent, and they're nation builders of tomorrow as well. So we move on to the next slide. In fact, when you look at the policy in Punjab, they define youth as between 15 and 29. According to the United Nations, it's roughly about between 15 and 24. Now that's why we are talking about youth here, because we are saying that the youth population is about, in Pakistan itself, 60% of the population, is to be considered as being youth. So in every 5 person, 3 Pakistani youth. So you have a very, very young population anyway, very young, between the age of 15 maybe to 29 anyway. And I think let's look at a story of someone who, it's about a particular girl who, youth who she believes her sin is too big, and Allah will never forgive her. In fact, she told us that she was really a good Muslim until she got involved with a boy at university, and that she hoped to marry after graduation. However, he has recently told her that she's from a different sort of ethnic group and maybe, different madhab. His parents will never accept her. Anyway, she's so ashamed that she feels she can't even pray more. So these are one of the sort of millions of problems that, that identify with youth. Now, if you look at mental health, because that's very important in the context of youth, that is estimated that there's about 8 to 10% of the population in Pakistan having problem with mental health problem. But one of the biggest problem, I think, in youth is suicide, because suicide is one of the leading health problem in Pakistan, And although there's no official data, and as most of the cases don't get reported, there is a drastic rise of suicide, teenage suicide in Pakistan, anyway, and it's very daunting. In fact, what they found that from some studies that girls in Pakistan are more vulnerable to suicide than boys, but their parents fear. Basically, of course, there's a fear, there's a shame, there's a stigma from registered cases of attempt to suicide, and the reason, of course, is pretty obvious. You have the senseless, stigmatization of society towards this issue. So suicidal ideation and suicidal attempt are already high, particularly among young women experiencing sometimes intergenerational conflict or domestic violence and many other things anyway. So, according to the Human Rights Commission in 2011, about 5 students attempted suicide in Karachi itself anyway, and every single day, so this is the big problem. So suicide, girls in Pakistan tend to be, I say, more vulnerable to suicide than boys, and we still, although it's low rates compared to other countries, nevertheless, it's still a big problem. Especially if just in Karachi itself, you have about 5 every single day, about 5 suicide a day. The other problem we have is eating disorders. I think this is very common, although it's more common in girls and boys, but both of them have the same thing. And you have the incidence of behavior. It's been identified that probably in Pakistan, about between 45 to 50% of college students manifest some sort of disordered eating behavior. And this problem is only common in the upper level of society, more or less, your high class society anyway. And but many teenage girls these days are more conscious of their body weight, of their figures, of a fear of they have a phobia of putting on weight, and so they are trying to cope, especially the advertisement and the women from the West anyway. It's ironic because that such problem exists in Pakistan. On one hand, people are dying of malnutrition. On the other hand, you have that sort of irony that people are trying to lose weight, trying to kill themselves, inverted commas, by over dieting as well. So, for example, one case, I think in Islamabad anyway, and the other concern is growing that there's a growing number of young girls with eating disorders. They get about 10 in one of the hospital. It's a private one, I think. It's between 10 to 15, a patient per day. So the number of people they treat has increased threefold over the past, decade or so. Anyway, so there's a big problem in terms of eating disorders as well. The other things we need to talk about is addiction or addictive behavior. This is another problem with youth, but not only to do with youth, because there's studies, from the national survey in Pakistan, for example, in 2013, where they found, they found that not youth itself, but about 4.5 million people are considered dependent on substance misuse and requires some sort of treatment anyway, and of course the most commonly used drug, we have around 4 million nation-wise. People tend to use, of course, cannabis and heroin, amphetamine are being used by young people, and also, of course, you have the non-medical use of drugs. These are prescribed by doctors, which we call iatrogenic disease. And smoking is also the big problem. Tobacco smoking, even shisha smoking among women, which has been, which I come to the next one, is that that's been identified in some studies. So it's the incident of shisha smoking is rising quickly in young boys, and also even in children in Pakistan, and a small number of girls, or a small minority of girls, also use shisha on special occasion anyway. Basically, this starts fashion and later on become sort of a nicotine addiction, because shisha is probably worse than smoking a cigarette. One hookah smoking is equivalent to basically, according to WHO, is about 10 or more cigarettes or more. What I like the other things we have is Facebook addiction, although it's not part of the DSM-5 as part of the diagnostic criteria in the American DSM-5, although some people regard it as some form of addiction, because it has it's associated with a number of problems, especially among young people. In fact, I call it fitna book anyway rather than Facebook anyway. So I mean, Facebook usually adolescent and youngsters anyway, and of course there are a lot of physical problems, there's associated problem, but also it have a lot of impact on relationship. And some of the physical problems involve risk of obesity, eating disorders, risk of cancer, because there are a lot of studies, the evidence for that anyway, that in fact, what one study is found for eating disorders, for example, the more time the adolescents spent on social networking site, the more likely they were to develop eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, extreme dieting, and so forth. And this was found, okay, not in Pakistan, but generally. So I think we could apply it to our Pakistani population as well anyway. Of course, exposure to online fashion and music content as well, watching TV shows like, I don't know, all sorts of things, also associated with increase in eating disorders, So there's also associated problem to do with depression, cyberbullying, sexting, which is, that display of sexual preference on teens' Facebook profile, and basically it's an intention for the users to have some sort of virtual, relationship anyway, And there's a number of other associated problems, social adjustments, and reduced time for study, possibility of conflict, privacy is blown up, moral values and so forth. Of course, this impact on the family as well, in the sense that, less family concern, they less interact with the family, and some people are married, then lead to problem of jealousy, problem of, cyber sex in a way, and also lead to divorce as well. So we have problem with Facebook. Now, in summary, what are the challenges faced by Muslim youth? One is the development of identity, of Islamic identity. And this is a major problem, because Muslim youth should have it in mind that the loyalty, if they're Muslim, I'm not saying that, if they're Muslim and they have Iman, then their loyalty is to Allah as well as the messengers who are and true believers anyway. And they have a problem with the media anyway. The media and social media play an important part in socialization as well, as we know anyway. And there's challenge in social life, and there's lack of authentic Islamic education in some cases. Muslims tend to feel inferiority complex because they always feel that they're victim, but we're not victim. We should stop trying to think that we are inferior to anybody else, to the West or anybody. We have discrimination again. We probably have lack of equal opportunities, and also the biggest thing is peer pressure. Peer pressure is very powerful tool, and it tend to influence the behavior of young people anyway. And so what are the solution to it now? You can't see the screen, but unfortunately, but I have something from Muhammad Iqbal talk about, I quote, "The noble path history of Islam is full of simple lessons of devotion, honesty, and commitment, whose culmination is Hussein and beginning of smile." So what he's talking about here is about, Iqbal was at his eloquent best when he was addressing young Muslims anyway. And this, as you say, this noble path of history, of devotion, of honesty and commitment, whose communication is with Imam Hussein and beginning with Ismail alayhi salam, which is the son of Ibrahim anyway. And the example, I think we can take a few examples about youth. If one example would be Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. She was a lady with rare qualities and formidable character and match in history. She is the most empowering role model that there's been anyway. And she was a wife, a close companion. She has quite a lot of knowledge, insight, as no woman has acquired. She has been a teacher, one of the great scholars of Islam, a political leader and a warrior. And also she showed us by her life how a woman can be an expert in both domestic work, also in the intellectual world. So you could see that a lot of, in the history of Islam, a lot of young Muslim play a prominent role in shaping and developing the Muslim society as a model from the onset of Islamic State. Not only you have Aisha, but also you have another famous lady by the name of Sumayya bin Khattab, and she also one of the most notable examples of womanhood. In fact, she was the first martyr of Islam anyway, and she was one of those who stood fast and raised up on the worship of Allah alone. In fact, she was the 7th person to accept Islam as a young person anyway, and of course she was tortured and so forth, and she was the first basically Shahida martyr in Islam. Again, they were young people. So what the lesson we learned from those two Sahabiya? One is from Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, say young woman, good in all sphere, be found fulfilling our role and responsibilities. From Sumayya, may Allah be pleased with her, she also fight for the truth of what she believes in, always have a heart filled with strong and vibrant. Also, you also have, from boys, I won't have time to do it, is Khalid bin Walid. He also, from youth, he was, wasn't the greatest general history and one of the greatest heroes in Islam. He remained undefeated in his entire military life. But he was young, he was, I think, about 20 when he was made to lead, the Islamic army. And there's another one, Salman al-Farsi, Salman the Persian. He was noted for his vast knowledge, and he was the first person to translate the Quran into a foreign language. Again, he was, young when he was doing that. So what about Muslim youth? So basically, if you look at some of studies, Muslim youth may be at higher risk of anxiety, of depression. Religiosity seemed to appear a protective factor. So basically, if you're religious, and then that act as a religion factor, you're protected from having mental health problem anyway. The more religious you are, the better mental health outcome you have anyway. And of course, we know that religiosity is an important positive factor in negotiating both stress and acculturation, which means that you don't take in other values from the West anyway. Again, this for evidence from different studies anyway. And now in terms of intervention, what can we do? How can we help the youth? Of course, there are some people who need treatment if they are pathological, if they have eating disorders, if they are suicide, or depression, or any mental health problem. They need all sorts of, they need treatment, and both, orthodox treatment, psychosocial treatment. At the same time, they may receive Islamic psychological intervention in terms of Islamic psychotherapy and other, they can use other things in spiritual intervention in terms of dua, supplication, doing namaz, but also, fasting, giving charity, but also you can use ruqya as well, I finish up by another quote from Muhammad Iqbal, who stated that, he said, quote, "Despair not, for despair the decline of knowledge and gnosis. The hope of a believer is among the confident of God." So, in a way, what he was saying that in a nutshell, that we always have to have hope. We don't despair. As youth, we don't have to despair. We have hope. And Imam Tahawi, one of the great Hanafi scholars, has always talked about, always have hope, that something's going to happen. And also, not only have hope, but also trust in Allah. Anyway, and so basically, we need to re-socialize our youth in terms of having, Islamic values, and this should be part of education in any social science, in fact, in any disciplines, that they should learn, the Islamic ethics, to parallel with, secular knowledge, which is evidence-based practice. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about the technicality of it, and it's my fault. I should have tested it many times beforehand. I'm so used to Zoom.
Thank you so much. It was very insightful, and indeed, we need to have hope and believe in Allah. That is
Inshallah.
The gist of it, inshallah. Okay, so now I would like to invite our second speaker for the webinar. She's Dr. Riphah Rafiq. She did her PhD from University of Punjab and postdoctorate research from University of Nottingham. She has presented her research work in different national and international conferences. She has different publications to her name as well. She has been editor and reviewer to different journals. Currently, she's director of Institute of Applied Psychology. So I invite Dr. Riphah Rafiq to talk on recent challenges of youth in university education, focus on how to move forward. Please, Dr. Riphah.
Okay, I think so. Dr. Amna had to leave early. Dr. Amna, would you like to?
Yes, actually, I wanted to leave, but when I saw you there, so I find that you are senior and you are already there. So
no worries. No worries. Over to you if you want to speak. I know that you have another commitment, so I can wait. No
if
problem.
You kindly allow, I will just take very few minutes because I think
Sure. Over to you,
Professor Dr. Ghulam Hussain. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Riphah Rafiq. Professor Dr. Ghulam has extensively speak about the major challenges, the issues, and how we can tackle with them. The topic which was assigned to me to speak today was social relations in youth, the determinants and consequence with relation to parents, teachers, and peers. So this is one of the very important area to talk about, that how during the interaction with these three triangles, how youth suffers and what challenges they face. I don't have any formal presentation with me. I really didn't think about to make one. I thought that probably it is something just we will be just interacting with the students, and I didn't make any formal presentation out of it. But, so maybe I will take less time in because of this very reason. So when we talk about social interaction, I think group is whatever the three major components we are talking about. All these interactions are basically helping us to develop certain kind of communication skills. And these communication skills are interaction. The kind and form of social interactions are based on those communication skills. And in the result of those social interactions, we gain confidence.
I think Dr. Amna is facing certain connectivity issues. Yes, welcome back, Dr. Amna.
Assalamu alaikum back. Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I think the internet is breaking as well,
Yes.
fortunately.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Dr. Amna.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to the university internet connection. Now I have logged in from the other one. Okay, so I was just thinking that all these introductions finally lead us towards the emotional expression. That how we are going to express ourselves, and emotional expression is something which basically connect us with our teachers, with our peers, and with our parents, our families. So when we talk about exclusively the relationship of the youth with parents, this is very much important to understand that children do not choose their parents. Neither the parents are going to choose their children. So this is kind of the relationship which is divine, which is, already determined. And now we have to see that how we can improve that relationship further. So for that very basis, I think the first important thing is the trust, the relationship of trust, and setting the boundaries between the relations. Because when as parents, we are providing them a subtle kind of the parenting, which is not probably being, approved by the society, which is not being accepted by the child, that in return provides us with a lot of complication, lot of psychological illnesses, and lot more social issues. So during this time, we need to see that the kind of the parenting we are being used to take from our parents and the kind of parenting through which we have been raised by our parents is probably not being acceptable in its actual form if we are going to practice that with our children. So, time is being changed. Besides having a conservative Muslim society in which we are growing, we have to believe that we are growing in a conservative Muslim society. But still, we need to change certain thoughts, certain ideas, certain level of trust and relationship boundaries between ourselves and our children. So this is something very important. And I think this is something which is a mediating factor for child well-being. The major issue which the youth is facing these days is their psychological well-being, is their psychological distress which they are being faced because they are not comfortable speaking them about themselves within their homes. So they seek, guidance from their peers. They look up towards their teachers. They look up towards social media and other things to seek the approval. They become dependent on that, and this is how their well-being is in return, get affected. So I think the family structure in our society, the role of the parents, and how they are going to be open up with their children is something very, very important to talk about. The other thing which is related to the parents is that whatever kind of the influence the parents are having with towards their children is ultimately going to affect their decision making skills. So if the influence is positive, that will inculcate good kind of decision making skills in their children. And if the influence is kind of negative or the experience is not good with the parents, that is for sure going to affect in terms of poor decision making skills, and they will eventually going to ruin major part of the youth's life. So this is something which need to be understand in a very critical manner. Then looking towards the relationship with the teachers, if I look about that how teachers can play an important role, I must have to talk about the constraint with teachers face when they are in relationship with the children, whether at the school level, whether at the university level. At times they wanted to do something better for the children, but they have lack of budget. Maybe they are constrained with the policy implementation of the government. Recent days, you are looking at the different changes being going on. The single national curriculum is in debate. People are taking a lot of issues related to that in either positive manner or negative manner. So policy implementation is an issue. Then by and large, we have a defective examination system which eventually affect the relationship between the teacher and the child. And at times, the teacher is not just satisfied with the performance of the children, with the youth, but they are coming up with a very better grade because of that examination system. And sometimes it happens that the child has a lot of spark, he can come up with much better grades, but because of that system, teacher is unable enough to give him proper, encouragement and proper grades. So this is also an issue. Then poor physical infrastructure is also something which causes some damage to this interaction between the children and the teacher. Nevertheless, I must have to speak about the lack of professional development and a skill which a teacher must have, but that is absolutely lacking in our system, because these days, especially in terms of the university teachers, they are so much constrained with a lot of administrative work, with a lot of assignment which is coming to them through QEC, from different administrative departments, from research office, from HEC, and so on, that they are at times unable enough to develop their personal rapport, their personal relationship, and the kind of special interaction with the students which a teacher is supposed to be have, mandatory supposed to be have with the student. So that at times we see that although we are accessible to them all the times on WhatsApp, on groups and all those things, but the kind of the social interaction, the relationship, the communication that it should be on a level is somehow missing. So this is something. When I come towards the aspects of the peer, I think this is the most sensitive point which we need to be, focus on, because relationship to the peers are very, very much significant in the adolescence, because the comparison and processes of identity formation, as Dr. Saab has rightly pointed out, are intense during this time. So peer pressure or the influence in whatever you do or whatever you want to plan and think, whatever is being accepted by the friends is something which you tend to do. The first thing which comes into mind that either the group is going to accept that, my group is going to accept my fashion, my hairstyle, my, liking and disliking about a certain artist or a song or a music or eating preferences and things like that. So, the very much personality you are carrying is being influenced by the peer group, whether it could be positive or it could be negative. And that coping well with the peer influence is something which is very important to be, balancing out right between yourself and fitting in within the group. So here come the identity crisis comes in. Then when we look at the relationship with the peer, it also becomes very meaningful in terms of seeking the social support and then making the social comparison, because choosing the clothes, hairstyle, jewelry, whatever their friends are doing, listening to the same music and TV shows and doing risky things, breaking the rules, these are the kind of the issues which just comes in when you look at your peer group, coming from eating disorders to different risky activities and all those, you name it. And then earlier the Dr. Saab has also mentioned them. I think during the recent time, the balance between having the social interaction between the teacher, the peer group, and the parents is very, very much important. At times, the messages which the child carries from the home is absolutely different from the one which he is getting from the peer group. And here comes the difference. Here comes a huge difference, which create a lot of disparity in their thoughts, that either they are doing their things into the right direction or in the wrong direction. This is the very much reason we are seeing these days the increasing number of self-harm and suicidal ideation and suicidal practices in our young generation, because the problem lies that they are not being able to cope well with the circumstances which they are living in. So this is one of the major issues. And most of the youth is just wasting their time without understanding the major concerns of their life, without understanding the major responsibilities of their life. So I think this is the time to just jot down all these three sectors together. We should be able to develop some negotiation between parents, teachers, and peers in a term that we will be able to understand the chemistry of the social interaction of all these three groups, which are the major stakeholders in one's life, and to bring them at one pole, because the larger the disparity is among these three groups, the major the conflict and distress would be arising in their lives. So this is what I would like to say and would like to conclude with, that I would give this message to you, that try to bring closer all three poles of these in their lives, so that their life become more easy, conflict free, and easy to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amna. It was very well presented, and I could connect to most of your points on a personal level as well, being a teacher and a parent. So yes, now I would like to invite Dr. Riphah Rafiq for recent challenges of youth in university education, focus on how to move forward. Please, Dr. Riphah.
Okay, Ji, thank you very much. A lot has been said about the youth. I think so. The major challenges we are talking about, youth itself is quite a challenging period. I can just recall my youth, and it was quite a challenging period. But with this pandemic on, I think so the challenges are now more for our youth. So I would be just briefly discussing the major challenges in academia. So the challenges, I personally believe, they are not going to end, as this pandemic is going to linger on. We don't know for how much time. So spending on education may be compromised in the coming years. This is one of the most important things that we should, as academicians, keep in our minds. And our public funds are directed to health and social welfare. Long-term public spending on education is at risk, and already this is a sector that is not a sector much thought about by our politicians also. So private funding will also become scarce as the economy weakens and unemployment risks increases. So at tertiary level, if we think about this, the decline in the international student mobility following travel restrictions, specifically if I talk about the University of the Punjab, this is what is happening, is already reducing the funds available in our university as well as in our country, where foreign students pay higher fees, so they won't be joining in. So if we just think for a second, is the pandemic an ultimate disruptor? So I think so for youth and for everyone else also, uncertainty of the illness, the self-isolation, social distancing. Again, we are teaching our students online, and this quarantine and uncertainty of the future have been major courses that are important, and they manifest a number of psychological and mental health issues of students as well as teachers. So this constant shift of decisions from opening educational institutions to either closing them and then moving back to online classes, because our online classes started just from today. So the university was off for 1 week throughout the province. So all these things do cause a lot of stress in the students as well as the teachers. So talking about a paradigm shift in education due to COVID-19, so e-learning has become the mandatory component of all educational institutes like schools, colleges, and not to talk about the universities in and around the world due to this pandemic crisis. And this deadly situation, specifically with this Delta variant, it has really flipped out of the offline teaching process. The day we join in for offline process, after 15 days, again, we are teaching online. this lockdown and everything has become immediately clear that the students are at risk of dropping out, and those who are likely to experience the most significant learning losses are the ones from marginalized backgrounds. I'm talking about this because in our university, students who usually join come from small villages and from marginalized backgrounds. So they have poor internet connectivity, and even today I have signed so many applications and asking the hall council to give them consent to stay in the hostels because they don't have internet connectivity or even internet in certain areas, specifically in, the students who are from Gilgit-Baltistan. So the other major issues the students are facing is just like the teachers are not knowing what is expected from them. So they are thinking pandemic period is going to end one day and they are going to be on campus, but nobody is sure about that also. So the trial and error method adopted by teachers for online teaching and which continues till date. So because teachers are themselves not equipped to teach online, the teachers' lack of expertise in online teaching and students' lack of expertise in online learning are major issues. So we did a small survey in which the boys aged between 18 to 25 years and girls aged between 17 to 22 years, they reported major mental health concerns that were internet addiction, as already talked by Professor Saab. Sad mood, time management, anger issues were there, and sleep problems, stress and anxiety were the major issues reported by these students. So I was wondering that why can't we adopt the different strategies that different countries out there have tried to adopt in order to overcome their educational challenges. Like one of the strategy which I was just going through was the Australia. They funded those who were looking to improve their skills or retain. So we can just focus on skill enhancement, and even if the people are not going in for degree programs because they have to earn for themselves, and specifically the students from marginalized backgrounds, we can just start skill-based courses also. And Australia, what another thing they did was they reduced the cost of taking short online courses, exempted study loans for domestic students for 6 months. Though I think so, it can be a great challenge for a developing country like Pakistan, but still at some point we can have students reduce their burden of fee and everything, and we can ensure funding of these students, and so that the enrollment does not drop to that extent. Because I personally have received many applications from the students who don't want to continue because they say that they are more interested in doing a job because their father has lost a job or their mother has lost a job or their siblings, they are not finding jobs. So these are the hardcore real issues of academia. So, and to double students' grants and broaden the eligibility of financial assistance by the universities. And I would like to praise the Vice Chancellor of our university. He did reduce the cost of the fee 50% in 2020. So we can provide additional support in the form of scholarship fundings, extensions for students and postdoctoral researchers who are affected by these COVID conditions. So the focus should be on to call to transform education. This is very important. Universities need to enhance internet bandwidth, enlarge the capacity of data centers, purchase licensed e-learning tools that are still lacking in our institutes, and provide training for students and professors on needed IT skills. And online training and skill enhancement workshops could be emphasized to compensate for on-campus activities. I think so these are the need of the hour. So effective and responsive IT technical support and troubleshooting services should be provided to students, especially during quizzes and exams. So I think so all the universities have been struggling and are trying to help the students, but we need to really now come forward and transform our educational system. We need to develop and maintain robust communication strategies with staff, faculty, and students. Like we are using, like Dr. Amna was talking about, we are using WhatsApp groups and other social media platforms. And now these social media platforms have replaced the traditional notice boards, because most of the semesters are they're studying online. So all these things are very important. So there are certain recommendations for the instructors, which I want to give, because many of the students are facing the stress and challenges because of these concerns. So we need to have a strong effort should be made to design online courses rather than moving face-to-face materials to a course into the online environment. Unfortunately, currently, nearly most of the universities have just converted their on-campus courses into online courses, and we are teaching them like this. So interactivity and feedback issue be emphasized during the online classes to increase students' attendance, where virtual chat rooms and forums for students to students and student to instructor and online interaction should be designed. So there should be clear instructions concerning exams, quizzes, and assignments to inform learners how to get help, because most of the students, specifically if I talk about my own university, they have felt stress, anxiety, and even students have reported depression because they were unable to assignment it very difficult because of the lack of training. So there are certain recommendations to the designers. Synchronous and asynchronous forums, blogs, message boards, and chat rooms are all possible tools to reach the needed internet connectivity levels to enhance retention rate of students, support students in need, and replace individual face-to-face support and mentoring provided in conventional learning to on campus. So if we say that in a past COVID environment, all professional courses need to be a balance between skill and theory. That is very important. We should now start focusing on enhancing skills on our students. Our higher educational institutions involved in professional education need to focus on better employability of graduates. That is very important, because students, if we are not going to focus on employability and skill enhancement, then I think so with the coming years in which the pandemic is most likely to stay in one form or another, is likely to create a lot of problem for the youth. So the basis of education will not change. Quality of education, so that a professional can contribute to the development of the society, but the mode through which we provide the students should be on psychological aspects of teaching and learning. A few thoughts I would like to end up my talk, and I really thank you to Riphah University and to the organizers for organizing a much needed webinar, specifically again when we are halfway in closure of our universities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rafa. It was very well said, whatever the points that you gave. Pandemic has certainly increased all the issues pertinent to academia for both students and teachers, and I particularly liked the solutions that you presented. So thank you very much for that. Now I would like to call our next speaker, who is Dr. Shumaila Asad. She did her PhD from University of Punjab and is currently serving as head of department of Riphah Institute of Clinical and Professional Psychology. She has vast experience in academia, and her expertise is especially in research. She has also different publications to her name as well. Now I would like to call her to talk on health issues faced by youth today. Please, Dr. Shumaila. Your mic is mute, Dr. Shumaila.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm going to discuss health problems of youth, which youth is facing these days. I will start from some recently identified facts which were identified during two studies which we were conducted. One was conducted by me in 2020, and one was conducted by me, Maham, and Ms. Hadar. And the findings are related to their physical and mental health. Basically, we have identified different types of their health issues. Sleep patterns were disturbed, difficulty in falling asleep, digestive problem due to online food ordering, especially at night, and ordering routine, eating routines, back pain, neck pain, and other bodily pains. Eyesight has become weak, frustration due to lack of social support. Parents' social support was not there, siblings and friends' support was not there. From these all issues, I came to a conclusion that there are some basic problems, that why we are like this, why we are not going to cope with these situations when needed. So I identified two factors. One was predominating factor, which is related to imbalance in the behaviors, like risk-taking behavior in youth, exploration and novelty for importance seeking, independence from parents, and in lifestyle. That this tendency could lead to potentially dangerous behavior, including drug use, harmful drinking, harmful risky driving, violence, depression, and then consequently suicidal tendencies. So the causal relationship between behavioral control and a specific imbalance in brain function that exists during adolescence already. And we have been facing a situation where our youth are depressed and committing suicide due to stress and mental traumas. Another factor which I identified and I explored, and I came to an conclusion that parents are requiring to take extreme care of their children so that they could stay fit mentally. Parents are unaware of the situation which is creating problems. Furthermore, in such situations, parents are responsible to consult the right person. They don't know how to tackle this situation. So they don't know how to tackle this situation, and they also get stressed, or they avoid, and the situation get worse. We need to inform people about parenting skills so that they could bear their children in an appropriate manner and way. We need to scale up public awareness also regarding psychological disorders among the parents, and we should inform them about the causative agents of illness which are completely avoided nowadays. Another problem which triggers with the health problems, that was COVID situation. And I want to discuss about, because stress of having coronavirus was very much found in the students, and stress related to coping with online learning system, as Dr. Rafia also talked about her research, and the almost same results were here. And connectivity issues, limitations of gadgets, they are using laptop and smartphone, sharing with parents and siblings, assignments uploading, problem in understanding some difficult concepts on online platform. Also grades apprehensions, future uncertainty. These were all the apprehensions from the student sides. One more thing, that parents are not supportive in online learning, because students reported that they became more demanding to the presence of their children at home, and they expect from their children that they have to help them in their house chores during their online classes, and it was very stressful for them. So consequently, this situation created stress, anxiety, depression, and suicidal tendencies among them. Stress, frustration related to education, basically it leads to educational problem. Educational frustration also always leads to competition, grades, and admission apprehensions. And when there is imbalance in lifestyle, we became anxious and there is lack of control. Then when we see that another big issue which is in our recently identified was depression, and this depression was related to helplessness. When they find it that they are not able to do something and there is connectivity issue and we can't connect on the right time, or can't upload their assignments on the prescribed date, etc., etc., they become helpless. They have the feelings of depression and they become very anxious about that. So currently we have been facing a situation where our youth are taking drugs also due to the excessive stress and frustration, and these problems are also leading them to suicidal ideation. Student feels themselves unable to cope with stress due to the heavy burden of studies, competition, stress due to expectations of parents regarding high grades, and depression due to not getting admission in required field or the university they like to admit in. To deal with these issues, parents should take their responsibility in understanding the situation and avoiding the unfortunate incidents. We need to inform the people about parenting skills so that they could bring up their children in an appropriate way, because it is very important. Young people encounters many health problems due to the predominant conditions. So what are those predominant conditions? I will discuss it after a while. So the cases of depression and suicidal tendencies are increasing day by day due to some factors. So we should try to avoid these through intervention and with some training. So we need to make a balance. What type of balance? Because I am going towards a way forward. So how we can way forward? There should be a balance, because the imbalance in the society related to disparities and unequal distribution of economic assets and income and social inequality and luxuries of people within society, it differs. So a balance between these economical distribution and in the society, it is very important. But right now, what we can do and what student can do, we need to discuss about that. So students should develop a balance in physical, emotional, social, and spiritual health. And parents should take responsibility of their children and need to enhance parenting skills. And obviously, psychologists should provide awareness through different forums like these. And I think with the balance in the society and in the lifestyle, the problem can be handled better. So it is very important that how we can balance between physical, emotional, social, and spiritual health, because I'm talking about lifestyle. If we focus on our lifestyle and we try to make it better, then it will be easier for youth to overcome their health problems. So what can they do? They can avoid unhealthy lifestyle and habits, they should have an understanding of themselves and others, their motivation and their emotions, improving the relationship with the surrounding environment, and purifying their heart and inner balance, because inner balance is very important. So Professor Ghulam Rasool has already discussed about it, but I will discuss it shortly, that what is healthy lifestyle and how can we manage this healthy lifestyle. First of all, believe in Allah, good deeds, relationships according to Allah's instructions, and eating halal food, maintain good hygiene balance, that is very important. Strong bodies have the potential for powerful soul. A sound personality and a wise intellect will be developed by doing all these practices. Youth should avoid smoking, drinking, and use of other drugs like ice, which is very common nowadays, and it is a very damaging drug which our youth is using in these days. And then healthy and nutrient diet play a great share in maintaining the healthy lifestyle. Physical exercises and activities are very important, which youth is not adopting, because they have their gadgets in their hands and they are using those gadgets by sitting on a couch or on a chair, and for a long time, which is also damaging their health. So recognizing a feeling as it happens, it is the keystone of emotional intelligence. We should understand others. We should be able to convey our point of view very clearly. It will help us in explaining our things and understanding others. At the end, I would like to suggest there are 4 cues which we use. I think you are all aware of with those. PQ, IQ, EQ, and SQ. Which PQ stands for physical health, and for physical health, we should eat right, we should exercise daily, we should sleep well, we should avoid substances. And for IQ, intelligence quotient, with intellectual activities and enhancing our learning skills and knowledge is very important. It will help us in maintaining our mental and physical health also. EQ is very important for our emotional stability. So if we are good in emotional stability, we will express our feelings on a right way, and we can understand others' feelings with empathy. So the last one is SQ, which is very important and which is related to spiritual quotient. So higher level of thinking, goals in life, morality, ethics, humanity, these are all very important things which we have to adopt to overcome our health problem. So as we know that health is a big challenge for youth emerged due to imbalance in behavior, because our youth is not practicing those balanced behaviors, and parents are not doing their duties, and they are not vigilant what children are doing. And also the role of psychologist and teacher is also very important, because they are in better position to educate them and convey them the right path and the appropriate way of adopting the right and balanced lifestyle. So all these problems can be resolved through adopting a balanced lifestyle, learning required skills, identifying actual potential, following a rational path, adopting a positive attitude, which is very important, and learning stress management skills. I think I should stop now because it is already 4:14. Thank you very much. Hopefully, I have conveyed my point of view. Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Shmaila, thank you so much. And indeed, you are right. We have to follow all those 4 cues for our well-being. I would like to thank all of our speakers. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking out your precious time and sharing your views with us. And I would like to conclude this webinar saying that all our speakers, they've not only highlighted certain challenges that the youth are facing, all of them, they presented very well-connected talk. They also gave us solutions on how to move forward. I think this was the best part of this webinar, where we can look forward that how we are going to move ahead. So thank you very much, everyone. And I would like to call Dr. Shmaila for a vote of thanks for our speakers.
Thank you very much. Dear participants and experts, it was great for us that you have joined with us and convey your precious point of view about the recent challenges of youth, because it will be very helpful and will be a guideline for the students to resolve their problems and to manage their stress and anxiety. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.